Hi everyone, I'm Hayley. I'm always in the craft room, and today I have one finished thing to show you, one work in progress, and just a little bit of a catch up about all things happening in the craft room. So, my first finished make is this dress. It's the George's Portfolio Mellow Dress, and it's hard to be enthusiastic without just sounding like I'm absolutely full of myself. I know that's a real British person problem, but I love this dress. It's just amazing. And it's hard to say that without sounding like I'm saying, I'm amazing. I look amazing in this dress, but this dress makes me feel amazing. So you might know I made the George's Portfolio Mellow top. It is actually a dress pattern. It was only ever released as a dress pattern, but I will link the channel below for George's Portfolio. She is a fashion professional and home sewing pattern designer living in Brisbane, Australia. And she does really fun vlogs just all about the 20-something lifestyle in a city. But she also does vlogs specifically about the process of designing her patterns. So they're called designer diaries. And it takes you through the whole thing from concept all the way to her writing the instructions, testing, and so on. Anyway, with this particular pattern, the mellow dress, she had some issues, I can't remember where with, and was making like a million toiles. And she did one to save fabric just as a top. So she cut it off higher and just wore it as a top. And I loved it so much that I bought the pattern just to make the top, even though that's not how it was advertised. So I bought the pattern, printed off just the pages you needed to make the top, made one in a navy blue viscose crepe. Loved it. Then I went crazy and made a few more in a knit fabric, which is a whole nother thing. I've got a video about that too, which I'll link below. But I had genuinely no intentions of making the dress, and I will tell you why. And it's me, it's a long story, settle in. Once upon a time, I was going to an event and I had nothing to wear. And in like nowadays, when that happens, obviously it's a mad rush to say something and I'm like hemming it on the way. But back in the day, that meant a mad dash around the shops, trying on a million things, inevitably buying the first thing you tried on back in the first shop. Anyway, I bought a bias cut dress and I never felt great in it. I didn't at the event, I didn't afterwards, just didn't like it. And ever since then, I've been like, oh, it's because it was bias cut, and steered away from anything bias cut. Actually, with the benefit of 20 years hindsight, I realised it was a couple of things that were working against that dress. And the first one is it was in a solid colour. And the second one is it was a shiny fabric. And I've come to realise I don't like shiny fabrics at all, really. I buy them occasionally, but I try not to because I always feel a bit wrong in them, don't know why. And bias cut in a solid colour is trickier because it leaves nothing to the imagination, does it? It skims and you can see the works, especially in a shiny fabric. So I saw this fabric. Some of you may recognise it as a fabric I bought at Ruby's Rags in Derbyshire. And as I was cutting it out, she told me it is a Fabric Godmother fabric. Anyway, I bought it, and as I was standing in the shop, I just thought, it's got to be a George's Portfolio Mellow Dress. I don't know why, but I was like, just has to be. And I thought, if I don't like it as a dress, if it's just not for me, I can just cut it down to a top and I know I will love it. So I bought enough to do the dress, and yeah, the rest is history. Back to it being a bit of a designer fabric. So I've never bought a Fabric Godmother fabric before. I've never bought any of the designer ones, Lady McElroy, etc. Not for any particular reason, just I haven't come across them. And I tend to buy my fabric in person if I can rather than online, just because so many times online I've ordered something and what has come is exactly what they've described, but not what I've read. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I tried to buy my fabrics in person, and I've never seen any locally. Anyway, as she was cutting out, she told me this was a Fabric Godmother fabric, and I checked to link it below for this vlog, and it is still available, and it's actually a linen viscose, which I didn't know. I thought it was just viscose, but it's a blend. Anyway, I love the fabric. I generally don't like linen mixes, probably a story for another day, but look, I love this. I will say though, and maybe I'm just going to show my absolute fabric ignorance, I can't see any difference from any other linen viscose that I've sewn up before, honestly. It was nice, but nothing particularly special. That said, I bought it because the print is beautiful, and you know what, that takes skill. Skill costs money, so happy to pay the prices. Love the print, and maybe it'll like wash really well or something, I don't know. But anyway, I absolutely love the print, and one of my pet peeves in life, yeah, I know, I have many, I'm a difficult girl, what can I say, is when a print is supposed to be abstract but I can see the pattern repeat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind a geometric print where there's an obvious pattern repeat, obviously, like polka dots or stripes, or even a floral if it's geometric. But when it's supposed to be abstract, but when I stand back, I can like see each of the pattern repeats. It absolutely does my head in, and I just can't cope. So this is a fantastic, beautiful print. I'm holding it this way because I didn't realise until I was wearing it that because I cut it on the bias, the print is kind of diagonal. Can you see? Like how the flowers are starting. Oh gosh, you know I can't do left and right on camera. The flowers are like starting here and going across in stripes. I actually really like it. It was completely accidental, but I'm not bothered by it at all. And if anything, I think it adds to the dress. So, that was a lot of talking. Onto the actual pattern. I love this pattern, as I say. I did make a couple of changes from the last one. The first one is quite obvious if you know the pattern, and that is I didn't do the buttons at the shoulder. So you're supposed to close one side with buttons and thread loops, and I just couldn't be bothered, basically. I didn't think a dress that had this much print needed it as a design detail. In my navy blue top, I do really like it as a little extra detail, but I can get that top on over my head without undoing the buttons and loops, which is a big time saver because trying to get a loop around a button, either staring down there or looking in a mirror, and we've already established I can't do things backwards, it's a big job. So yeah, decided to eliminate that. And to do that, you do need to add back on the seam allowance on the front piece. So because this is cut on the bias, and George's instructions for laying things out and cutting on the bias are fabulous, the front piece is one whole piece. It's not cut on the fold. You actually get a full pattern piece, and you do need to add back on the seam allowance on the left shoulder if you want to eliminate the button. The back is cut on the fold, and as part of the instructions, you're instructed to trim off the seam allowance. So just cut the back as normal, that is fine. And the very first step of the instructions is to sew up the back. And I was a good girl this time, and I followed all of George's instructions about seam finishing. So the back, she tells you to finish, to sew, press open, finish separately. The side seams, she tells you to sew with a narrow zigzag and then finish both sides together on the overlocker. And on my blue one, I thought I knew better, and I did not do that, which was silly. And as a consequence, I have quite a ripply side seam where the seam allowances are like interfering with the drape of the fabric. So this time I did it as per George's instructions, and the side seams are just beautiful and lay perfectly flat. So yeah, what do you know? You should listen to professionals. This dress came about because we got back from our holiday, and you can see I'm still hoarse. I booked one extra day off work thinking I'll get the washing done, I'll do a meal plan, go and do a big shop, restock the fridge and freezer. Did I do any of that? No. No, I did not, because I woke up gripped by the desperate need to make a dress for an event we were going to that weekend. So I've actually worn this dress to that event, which is why I couldn't show it to you last week because it was in the wash. But every year we go to a family garden party, and I do usually make something new, a new summery dress. But this year, the British weather was not really very warm. So I was planning on wearing either this jumpsuit or my other Dominique jumpsuit. Anyway, we got back from holiday and the mercury was rising. So I thought about wearing my Notches Odell dress with the big sleeves. And then on this day that I booked off work, I checked the forecast for the weekend and it was 24 degrees. Well, no, this English rose wilts at like 21, let's be honest. So I could not wear long sleeves in 24-degree weather. There was just no chance. So I thought, I'll just cut out this dress, see how I get on. And the first thing I was going to do was fuse the neckline to stop it stretching out. And I thought, you know what, if I skip fusing it, it will save a couple of minutes. Maybe I'll get it ready for the weekend. And luckily, I stopped myself and just said, no. This was expensive fabric. You love this pattern. Do it properly. Don't try and save 5-10 minutes and just ruin it. So I was a really good girl. I properly slowed down and I thought, I'm just going to sew it to my usual standard. And if it's ready for the weekend, fantastic. If it's not, so be it. I'm not going to be naked, am I? Let's face it, I can find something in the wardrobe to wear. So that's what I did. And once that pressure was removed, it was such an enjoyable sew. And like, I don't get to say this often, so I'm going to say it loud and proud. I sewed this in a day. That never happens to me. I don't often have a whole day to sew. I'm not a fast sewer. And yeah, I think it was just, I've sewn this pattern before. It's actually really simple. Back seam, shoulder seams, side seams, apply the binding hem, you're done. So the binding, I gotta brag, you guys, it's so good. And again, it's George's instructions. So when I did it this way and it turned out so beautifully, it made me think, have I been doing binding wrong this whole time? And I actually went back and checked some instructions of earlier patterns I'd done. And no, I was following their instructions. These instructions are different than what I've seen before. And I'll tell you why. You sew the binding on the wrong side of the fabric. So the first pass is on the wrong side. Then you flip it around, tuck everything in, and you top stitch from the right side. But the genius part of this method is the back side's already sewn. You can't fail to catch it where it comes unflipped and then the fraying edges pokes out, because that was the first pass of stitching. So it's already secure. So the top stitching is just to do it from the right side. And actually, if you look inside, yeah, you can see my second line of stitching. I'm going to duck because otherwise the camera focuses on me, not that. You can see my second line of stitching. It sometimes is outside of the binding. So if that had been done the traditional way, like here, I would have missed all that. That whole section would have come undone, flipped out, fraying, nightmare. As it is, you're not relying on that top stitching to secure it down. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I love that method. I'm doing it forever now, and it's so neat and tidy. I'm so pleased with the finish on this. I really, really am. The other change I made was to raise the armholes 2 centimetres, and I did that because on the blue version, as the day goes on, because it being a bias cut, it does kind of relax down. You can see my bra. So I raised it 2 centimetres before I cut it out. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and the hem. So I lengthened it. I lengthened it quite a lot. I laid it out on the bias on the diagonal, and I just made it as long as I could with the fabric I had available. We all know that's the alternative name of this channel. And when I tried it on, it was just perfect. It was exactly the length I wanted. You'll see in the modelled footage how low it comes, but I absolutely loved it. So in order to preserve the length and also like the flutedness, the fluidity of the bias cut, I decided to do a rolled hem on my overlocker. So let's try and hold this up so that you can see. And it was a real big decision what colour to do it in. Oh, I'll show you what I went with and see if you like it. So yeah, I just did the rolled hem. I'm not holding it up high enough, am I? I just did the rolled hem feature on my overlocker, which is so quick and easy. It takes no time at all to change the settings and no time at all to actually do it. It was just such a brilliant quick hem, and it really just, it maintains that kind of floaty fluted effect. I think you know what I mean. Anyway, I love it. So that is the thing I completed in time for the party, wore it, got some compliments, was just absolutely thrilled. Then I came home and just didn't really know what to do with myself. So I started tidying up the craft room, which is what I always try and do when I start to like lose my sojo. And I was about to put away my Notches Odell dress pattern and a white broderie on glaze. And I thought, rather than go to the bother of putting both of those away, since they're destined to be together, why don't I just cut it out? So that's what I did. I will go and get it and show you where I am with my work in progress. So yeah, I quickly cut it out one evening while the kids were playing outside, and I just thought I'll just get it cut out. But then they were playing happily, so I thought, well, I'll just get started. I'll just fuse the neckline to stop it stretching out. But actually, as you can see, I fused the neckline, I sewed the bust darts, and I got half the sleeve panels in. So here we are. Such an enjoyable sew doing these sleeves. They're really, really very satisfying to sew. So that's what I've been up to this week. Actually, there was one more thing I wanted to show you. Look how much thread was left after I finished my dress. I know. Oh, it was tense. And also, I made my own bias binding, and look how much was left. Isn't that just so satisfying? Because I nearly cut a second strip, and I was like, I think I can get it out of that. And I did, and it was brilliant. So yeah, I do have a little bit of that fabric left. I'm not really sure what to do with it because it's all weird bias triangle pieces. Anyway, I folded it up and put it in the remnants drawer. But yeah, so pleased with the dress, really pleased with how my blouse is coming on, and I hope to see you again soon with a finished blouse. Bye.